thinking I knew she was getting baptized today, but I didn't fully process all that. This is you're just gonna be along for the ride of whatever God does there. Hey, before we jump into sermon, I do have a quick announcement to make. I wanted to make it here while I have your attention. So in 2 weeks, on May 22nd, after this service, we're going to have what I'm calling a family meeting. If you were going to a different church, they would call it a congregational meeting, or even worse, they'd call it a business meeting. And yeah, some people really get excited about that. But what I want to do with that meeting is I just want to kind of give you an update of how it's going. We've been in this building now for around 7 months, and I just want to kind of let you know some of the cool stuff God's been doing and kind of give you some benchmarks that we've been hitting. So so here's the deal. If you call Mosaic home, I want to impress upon you how important it is for you to be at this meeting. I really want you here. Also, if you're considering making Mosaic your home, I would really think this would be an important one for you as well, because it's going to kind of be one of those, not necessarily behind the scenes, but when you have a family meeting, this is the stuff that we need to know. And if you want to be a part of this family, it's important things for you to know. So what we're going to do is jokes are going to start early. We're going to end early on the 22nd. Yeah, shut up. And then, so I plan on ending at 11:50 and starting the family meeting at 11:55, and I want to be out of here by 12:30. So I'm just asking for, well, let's be honest, 15 extra minutes than normal, right? So only Jonathan laughed. That's great. So we're going to try and knock it out. And here, I'll also say this. If for some reason you're not going to be here on the 22nd, but you still want to know what's said in that meeting, we have a little sign-up sheet out at the Welcome Center. That's the little desk out here that says Welcome Home behind it. You can sign up there and put your email down, and we will email you a private YouTube link to it so you can watch it and kind of know what's going on. Don't use that as an excuse to go to lunch and not come to the meeting. It would be better for you to be here, but if you can't, please do that. And if you're watching online and you want to be a part of that meeting, we're not going to live stream it, but shoot an email to connect@mosaicwadsworth.com and let us know that you want that link, and we'll send it to you as well. All right, boring stuff over. Ironically, I want to start today by talking to you about yawning. Yawning. We know a couple of things about yawning. One, that yawning is contagious, right? And two, you definitely know that you're not supposed to yawn while your pastor's preaching. Those are two indisputable facts, right? Yawning. And I know you guys don't struggle with that at all. So that's cool. That's why we have a caffeine bar out there. But yawning is contagious, right? You know that when somebody yawns in your presence, you're always tempted to yawn yourself. However, did you know that not everybody feels that way? That yawning is not contagious to everyone, only some people. And researchers were interested in why. Why is it that some people seem to be immune to contagious yawning, while the rest of us, most of us, when somebody else yawns, we feel compelled to yawn? So they did some digging, they did some research, and what they found was really interesting. They found that the more empathy you feel for others, the more susceptible you are to contagious yawning. So if you're more empathetic, if you connect with people, if you kind of put yourself on the same level as others, you're more likely to yawn when you see someone else yawn. There were two groups in their research, two groups in particular, that were immune to contagious yawning: sociopaths, actual serial killers, and children under 4. I kid you not. So this week, it's true. So it was yesterday. We celebrated Mother's Day yesterday. I guess I'll say it now. Happy Mother's Day. Okay. We have a picture thing outside. Go take a picture. We celebrated Mother's Day yesterday, so my wife's sitting on the back deck. We're just kind of enjoying ourselves as much as two people who with 4 kids can enjoy themselves, which is not very much. So I had this in the back of my mind, and I had to test Lisa. Because, we've been married 18 years, but you never know. So I had to see. I yawned, and thank God she yawned back. So I'm not I'm not married to a serial killer. That was good. But then we were sitting later that night, we were sitting on the couch, and Zeke, our 5-year-old, who's yelling up here, he comes in and I don't know if your kids do this. He walks into the room in the middle of a sentence. I have no idea what he's talking about, but he just kind of starts talking. So I just usually ignore that. But we were talking about this yawning thing. I said, we should test this. So he's kind of sitting on my lap, and I said, hey, buddy. And we both, me and Lisa at the same time, just real big yawn. And I kid you not, he goes, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Then, it's not even all of it. When I've been here for a while, so he walks in, and when I was talking over here, he walks up and goes, hey, Dad. And I'm like, you're a serial killer. Like, this kid, you don't care about anything. Genuinely, a little nervous about that third child. He's got that classic middle child thing going on. And by the way, I really do feel that like single people, we joked last week about like going on a first date and not sure who you've got. Listen, if you're getting serial killer vibes, try this out. Yawn. And if they don't yawn back, run for your life. Like literally, this is a good test. It really is. Just don't try it on my 5-year-old because it does not work with him. Today, we're going to talk, Jesus is going to talk about kind of the opposite kind of a person, not the narcissist, not the prideful person, not the sociopath. Jesus is going to talk about the opposite kind of a person. So if this is your first time here, we've been looking at Jesus' teachings on happiness, and we've been finding out that they are incredibly counterintuitive. They are not what we would expect. And the reason is, one, Jesus is a genius, and two, that he has a completely different philosophy when it comes to happiness than most of us. And Jesus' philosophy is this, and I plan on pretty much saying this every single week of this series. Jesus' philosophy is that happiness is a byproduct, not an end in and of itself. Happiness is a byproduct, not an end in and of itself. That if you make happiness your goal, you won't get happiness. That happiness is actually a result of having the right goals in your life. So it is a byproduct, not an end. And Jesus holds that, and everything that he says kind of fits into that philosophy. Okay, so we're going to look at his third statement today. Here's what Jesus says, verse 5 of Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the humble, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the humble. He did not say blessed are the narcissists, right? He didn't say blessed are the prideful. He didn't say blessed are those who do not contagiously yawn when other people yawn. He said blessed are the humble. And one of the things we've been pointing out in this series is that you could translate blessed as happy. So you could say happy are the humble. Happy are the humble. But can we be real about that? Let's be real about humility here for a minute. When you were like 7 and they asked you, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody said, I want to be humble when I grow up, right? This was not a goal of yours. And I would also say that even right now in your life, except for the most spiritually mature among us, this is not something that you're like super excited for, right? If I could give you a magic wand and say, hey, you can give yourself like 5 traits magically, like 5, I don't think, I'm going to say it this way, I don't think you'd waste one on humble, okay? Because that's how you think about it, right? You'd be like, hey, rich, funny, smart, witty, really, really good looking, right? Like I'm gonna pick those ones, but I don't think you're gonna use one of those 5 on humble. And again, unless you're just like, actually, Pastor, I really would pick that. You should come up and preach because you would preach it better than me. But here, even though 7-year-old you, this was nowhere near on your radar, and even though you right now probably wouldn't put this in the top 5 of your desired characteristics, Jesus says here that humble people are happy people. Happy are the humble. Not happy are the smart, not happy are the rich, not happy are the beautiful. Happy are the humble. And then he says something, it seems even more outrageous, that these happy, humble people will inherit the earth, the whole thing. And that's also counterintuitive because let's be honest, if you look around at the people in power on this earth right now, I don't think that you'd use the word humble for very many of them, right? Let me ask you, do you think Putin would yawn if you yawned? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think he would. But it's easy to dunk on Putin, right? How about the 100 sitting U.S. senators? How many of them do you think would yawn when you yawn? It's not 100. It's probably closer to 0 than we want to admit, right? And the reason is because power and humility don't normally go together, right? That's not a normal combination that we see on this earth. Let's just be honest about that. Every time you meet somebody who's in power and is humble, it's a little surprising, right? You're like, oh my gosh, and you know what the word we use? Refreshing. Refreshing, that's the word we use, right? And the reason that is because it's not normal. It's just not normal to see somebody with power and have humility. But here Jesus says that in the end, the humble come out on top. The humble come out on top, that in the end, they shall inherit the whole earth. So what is this thing? What is humility? What does it mean to be humble, right? Because Jesus just said this is a happy-making, earth-conquering thing. What is it? Well, to understand humility, we also have to understand its equal opposite, right? Pride. It's probably best to look at these two things in tension, to look at them as opposite ends of a spectrum. So I want to give you a couple of definitions of these two words. So first of all, humility. Humility, and this is not, I don't do like the Webster's dictionary thing. I don't care what Webster thinks about these words. I try to kind of condense down what the Bible teaches about them. So humility. The recognition of what is real, the truth about God, the truth about self, and the truth about others. And this last sentence is really important. Humility's focus is on God and others. Humility's focus is on God and others. Contrast that with pride. So pride's definition is to believe that God and others are lower than they really are, and to believe that we are higher than we really are. A little bit of that illusions of grandeur thing. And I love this sentence. Pride is to see the world through the lens of a lie. Through the lens of a lie. And then pride's focus is on self. So if you forced me to shorten those two definitions up, I would just make it about focus. That humility's focus is on God and others, and pride's focus is on self. That's very simply probably the most succinct biblical definition of the two. Pride's focus is here. Humility's focus is not here. So let's chat then. If that's the case, and humility is the ability to see the truth about God and people and ourselves, and the focus of our lives is on others. And if pride is the opposite of that, we have a skewed lens to see the world where God and people are lower and we are higher, and the focus is on us. Let's do this. Let's put these two things on opposite sides of the stage. So this side, well, first service I made this side pride. You guys want to keep that? Yeah, you do. Okay, so pride will be over here. No offense. And we'll put humility over here. You guys okay with that? First service, somebody gave a thumbs up, and I was like, that's probably not the thing you should do for this. So we'll put humility on this side of the stage. So perfectly prideful over here, or I guess imperfectly, and then perfectly humble over here. Here's my question for you. If I told you, hey, come up on stage and stand where you feel you are on the scale between pride and humility, where would you stand? And let me know you can't come and stand right here, okay? You're not going to do that thing, well, I got 1 foot on one side and 1 foot on the other. No, you have to pick 51% something, okay? Because that's not an answer if you go, I'm just right in the middle. No, you're probably somewhere in the middle, but I want you to pick which side you're on. Now, individually, we're all going to, I'm just kidding. Now, before you cement that in your minds, I want to point something out. Pride is sneaky. Do you know that? Pride is sneaky. It's slippery. It's deceptive. Pride can kind of camouflage and conceal itself in your life. Check out this quote from a guy named Warren Wiersbe. He's a good Bible author. He says this: "Pride is the only known disease that makes everybody sick except the person that has it." And I love that. I love that. What he's pointing out, though, and this is one of the dangerous aspects of pride, what he's saying is that it's easier for us to spot it in others than it is in ourselves, right? I can sniff this out like a hound dog in other people. I can see it from a mile away in somebody else. But when I look in the mirror, I can't see this one. That's a scary aspect of this. Now, if you can with me try to objectively say, hey, that's true about pride, that pride is something I can see easier in others than in myself. If we can say that, can we take it then and admit that our own self-assessment may be inherently flawed? That wherever you had mentally put yourself up here, the truth, unfortunately, probably in reality is closer to this side than wherever you put yourself. Simply because you have a hard time seeing it in yourself. You can see it in others, but you can't see it in yourself. So if you put yourself here, then maybe the truth is you're here. And if you put yourself here, maybe the real truth is that you're here. And some of you, you're falling off the stage over here, right? Some of you, not me, totally. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you a pride test, a test. So I'm going to ask some questions, and every question that you say yes to is kind of putting yourself this way towards pride. So if you say yes, it's 1 degree this way. And I just want to point out, I said I'm going to give you a pride test. Somebody in here thought, oh, I'm going to do really good at this. And I just want you to know that if you thought that, you have to go here now, because that's one point in the negative for you. All right, you ready for this? Pride test. I'm going to go slow at first, and we'll pick up the pace a little bit. Number 1. This is like, remember, what was that one comedian who did like the "you might be a redneck if"? What was that guy's name? Jeff Foxworthy. This is kind of that. This is like, you might be prideful if, okay, ready? Okay. You guys don't care about him. All right, it's been a long time. Do you crave attention, honor, recognition, reward? Do you crave it? It's going to require some brutal self-honesty here. Do you have a need for attention or recognition? Do you post, that post, like, I just ran 17 miles, but the last mile was really hard. Hashtag humble brag. Hashtag shut up, right? They need attention. But here's the thing. That's the classic one, right? We all can see that there. I would also say that if you post, worst day ever, don't even ask me about it, that's the same thing. Do you know that? It's just a different flavor of the same thing. That both of those, where's the focus? Here. Do you crave attention, honor, recognition, reward? All right, number 2. Do you become jealous or critical of people when they succeed? Oof. See, when you just say jealous, I could say no, but the moment you say critical, okay. So can you like handle other people's success? Does it bother you when someone succeeds? Ooh, and let me ask you this. Let me give some nuance here. I don't mean succeed below you. It's real easy to celebrate the employee who just got in. Hey, you got a promotion? Yeah, good job down there. The one that's difficult is the one that's right here to right here, right? Can you celebrate that? When somebody gets promoted next to you, above you? That's different, isn't it? I can clap for the little guy all day long, but when it's up, that's different. Third, I should skip this one. Do you always have to win? I might have to have 2 for this one. I don't even let my kids win at stuff. Why? Right? The question is, well, sometimes I think it's because it's good for them, which is sometimes true, but all right. This one's a good counter to that. That's what we classically think about. How about this? Do you lack ambition for fear of failing? See, because I think a lot of people think that pride is the sin of the winner, right? But that's not always true. Some people don't try because they have the thought back in the back of their mind, what if I fail? And that thought has its roots in pride and how you'll look if you don't succeed. So you don't even put your hat into the ring because you don't want to look that way. Do you lack ambition for fear of failing? Do you have a pattern of lying about or hiding your failures? Do you conceal that? Do you have a hard time fully acknowledging when you're wrong? Spouses, look right, look ahead, don't look at you. Oh, I added this one. Do you argue with and criticize people on the internet who you don't even know? This is just a new thing people are doing. I don't know if you've heard of it. Do you have a lot of conflict with other people in your life? Just kind of every sphere you go into, family, work, home, friends, like do you have conflict kind of all around you? Do you feel superior to most people? Not all people, but most people. Do you have a tendency to take everything personally? Can you turn the compliment into an insult? You good at that? Yeah, you can do that, right? Trying to tell me I look nice today? What about yesterday? What's up, right? Do you feel, this one's hard to admit, do you feel your desires are more important than other people's desires? What I want to eat, what I want to watch, whatever, little things, big things, my desires are just kind of more important than yours. Do you always think the other person needs to change? All right, we're almost done. I know this hurts. Gosh. Last one, you ready? This is my favorite one. Are you right now thinking about someone in your life who you wish was hearing this? Because it's supposed to be for you. I get it. Send them the sermon later, but you need to listen now. So how'd you do? Failed. Okay, thank you. Failed. One humility point for you, sir. It's so hard to talk. By the way, this is what's so hard for me. Like this subject. Oh, preach a sermon on humility. Okay, right? I mean, this is one of the hardest things because the ironic part for me is that the people who need to hear this the most, the prideful people, won't hear it. They'll reject it. They'll push away from this. And ironically, the people who probably are oriented closer to the way they need to, you're going to leave feeling horrible about yourself. And that's not what I intend at all. That's almost always the way it works, by the way. When I preach like a sermon that's got a little edge to it, the person who comes up crying afterwards, I'm like, gosh, I wasn't even thinking about you. I was thinking about that guy over there, right? But the guy over there isn't affected at all. And it's the humble people who it hits hardest. So it's a little bit of a suicide mission for me. Like, hey, go preach on humility. And then, can I point out the elephant in the room? I can't preach about this from like a place of personal authority. Can I say it that way? You're not getting, because what I would love, the best thing that for you as like a listener is to hear a sermon from somebody who's like an expert on the thing, right? That's what we always want. I want to, if I'm learning about money, I want to hear from the guy who has money. Like I want to learn from him, right? If I'm learning about getting in shape, I want to learn from the person who's in shape. Like I want to hear from the people who are where I want to be. You are not getting that today. I can't tell you that whatever you're, stop laughing. Your humble goals, whatever they are, they're not this, okay? So I have to be honest with you. And I thought about lying to you, but my wife was in the room first service and she would have told you I was full of crap. So I can't do that. I can't tell you, hey, from experience, follow me as I follow Christ. I'm way over here, guys. And if you just get on my humility level, I can't do that. I can't. It wouldn't make much sense anyways. It's almost impossible to talk about. Because the moment you say you're humble, you're not. But I'll also tell you that even as I'm reading this list, and as I was looking at this subject this week, I was tempted to like almost despair at it. Because the more I study it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I am a horrible person. Like, I'm not even, I don't even want to say, okay, I'm like right here. I want to be like, okay, guys, let's be honest. I'm way over here. I'm way over here. And it's tempting to also feel there's no way I'm getting over there. Like I'm 38. I'm 38. I just can't even remember. It's not an important one. How in the next whatever I've got left am I ever going to get over there? And maybe after taking that test, you're a little bit in the same place. Like, it almost feels hopeless. How am I ever going to be what I'm supposed to be when it comes to humility? I think it's a little tempting to despair. So let me read a quote from a guy who wrote a whole book on humility. That's a bold move there. C.J. Mahaney, he says this: "There are no humble people, only proud people pursuing humility by the grace of God." There are no humble people. I really like this quote. Because on one hand, if we could be honest, like, it's nice that the tension gets released. Okay, thank God I'm not the only one over here, right? What he's saying is actually, we're all over here. We all live on this side. But it's about what you're pursuing. So what if we said it this way? What if we can kind of reorient our brains? Instead of despairing, saying, I am not humble, and actually it's kind of looking like I'm never going to get there. Instead of saying that, what if instead we thought of it, rather than thinking about humility and pride as destinations, what if we thought about them as directions? Instead of thinking about them as destinations that we will never reach the one that we're supposed to reach, what if instead we thought about it as a direction? Hey, I'm not humble, but I'm pursuing humility. Because then if we think about it as a direction, we can ask the question, what is the orientation of my heart right now? Like, it's not where am I on stage, it's which direction am I facing, right? I may well be over here, but am I pointed this direction? What steps am I taking? Because I'll be honest, if you're over here and you're at least pointed in this direction, if you're attempting to live your life with the focus off of you, then you're better off than the person who maybe hypothetically is here but facing this way, right? Because it's more about direction than it is destination. So, that's a better question. What direction are you headed when it comes to humility or pride? The orientation of your heart. And by the way, this is so important. Usually I start with how important something is, but I saved it for here. Do you know how important this subject is? I don't even like to look right at how important this subject is. The idea that humility is such an important thing for us to be pursuing in our life. Again, it's not on my radar. If you pick the top 5 things, I'm not picking humble, but maybe we should. I'm going to read you 3 verses. I really want to do the first one, but James 4:6, look what this says. And he, God, gives grace generously. As the scriptures say, God opposes the proud, but give grace to the humble. What does he do to the proud? What does he do if your life is heading in this direction, that you are getting more proud, that you are trying to attempt to get the focus on you more and more and more? What does that say God's doing? He's opposing you. I don't know about you, but I have enough enemies on this earth. I do not need the almighty creator of the universe standing in my path, right? That's not a thing I want in my life. Matter of fact, that's such a big deal to me that this one breaks me all by itself. That I'm like, no, the last thing I want is for you to be opposing me in my life, for me to be walking this direction and hit something, and it's like God's shin bone in my way because he's standing there saying, no, you're not going that direction. I can't even give you the good things in your life right now because this has to change. I've thought for a while, by the way, usually I'm more candid in the 9 o'clock service. They know me a little better than you do because the cameras are on this, so I have to my pride demands that I'm a little more polished here. But I'll tell you this, I've thought for a while in my 10 years of being pastor, like the reason the church hasn't grown is because God said, your heart's not ready, boy. For real. And that's okay, so it's my fault. Yeah, it is, because your heart's not ready to handle what would happen if I gave you the very thing that your heart wants. You can't do it. So he's stood there this long, beat it out of me. 5 years of being in a mobile church, just bludgeoned to death. Man, what if that's true? What if it's pride? What if pride's the thing God's after in your heart? Man, I don't want God opposing me. Let me read you 2 more. You already kind of know these ones, I bet. Even if you don't know the specifics, you've heard something like this. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, haughtiness before the fall. Pride before the fall. What about Proverbs 29:23? Pride ends in humiliation, while humility brings honor. The weight of the Bible. If you just read the whole Bible and you just could zoom through it, and with the focus of humility and pride, this is the flavor of the Bible. Humble people, their lives are just gonna be different than prideful people. Pride ends in a negative place. You've got God pushing back against you. It ends in destruction. It ends in humiliation. And then humility is always the one the Bible's kind of nudging you towards, always. Therefore, happy are the humble. Happy are the humble, for they will inherit the earth. Happy are the humble because God shows them more grace. Happy are the humble because they aren't headed for destruction. Happy are the humble because they're not smacking their forehead against God's shin bone as he stands in their path. Happy are the humble. Now, this begs a question. I hope you're asking it. The goal of my whole sermon today is to get you to this point where I'm hoping you are hungry for something, because you ever been in a church service where the pastor says you need to do something and then he just prays and ends and you're like, hold up, man. How? Right? You said I needed to do something, but you didn't give me any tools to actually do it. I wanted to put you in that place where right now I'm hoping you're going, man, one, I'm probably not where I should be when it comes to humility. Maybe you're really brutally honest. I'm just I got pride, man. I got pride. And then two, I really don't want that to be the truth. I don't want humility. Those are the two places I'm hoping you are right now. So even if you're not, pretend with me, because here's what I want to do. I want to give you three things, and I would love to say three things that will produce humility in your life. I won't go as bold as to say that. What I'll say is these three things are always present when humility is present. Okay, so these three things, because there's a lot of ways you can be humble. You can pursue humility. One of them is God will just destroy you, right? That's called humiliation. Being humiliated and humbling yourself, they end in the same place. It's just the path to get there is vastly different, right? And some of you know this from experience, right? God has crushed you. You didn't humble yourself. He humbled you. And I feel like ultimately we're all going to experience that. I've always asked God, this might be a lame, cowardly prayer, but I've always asked God, God, I would like to learn this the easy way. Have you ever prayed that? I pray it all the time. Even if I don't mean it, I still pray. God knows whether I mean it or not, but I pray it all the time. Lord, this is a lesson that I would like to learn the easy way because I know what it's going to cost me if I have to learn it the hard way. So here are three things that are always present with humility. One, self-awareness. Self-awareness. The humble person is almost always the self-aware person. They have a deep understanding of themselves. They recognize their emotions, their strengths, their weaknesses, their needs, their drives. They understand how their presence and how their actions and how their attitudes affect others. Humble people are really in tune with that. And they are deeply acquainted with the mess that's in here. And this goes back, if you remember week 1, we talked about being poor in spirit. Because a Christian, somebody who's a Christian, recognizes that they are a sinner, right? So I want to say, in order to be a Christian, you at least have to have the first step in humility. You at least have the very, very center of your heart has to be soft, because you have to have admitted to God, hey, I'm a sinner. You have to have admitted that. So you've got step 1 down. You've already looked at God, the almighty God of the universe, and you've said, I can't do this. You've already done that. So on some level, if you're a Christian, you already got step 1 down. You've admitted you're a sinner. You know yourself that well. You know that you can't climb your way to God. You needed Jesus to come down to you. You already know that. And what God wants to do is he wants to grow that from the inside out. Hey, you're a sinner. Let's talk about that. And see, this is the secret of Christian growth that most people don't talk about. Most people think that Christian growth is kind of like this beautifully straight line like this, and that you constantly feel more and more like a good person. But I'll tell you what, Christian growth is actually the opposite. As you grow as a Christian, you actually start to think, I'm a worse person. And I'm not even kidding. So some of you, you're experiencing this right now and you don't even realize it yet. But the way I like to picture it is that as you get closer to the light, you start to realize how dirty you are, right? You can think, oh, I'm really clean. In the dark, you're like, I'm good. And then you get out into the light and you're like, oh, wow, this is not clean at all. And that's kind of what it's like growing closer to God. Is as you get closer, you realize you're worse. And it's like peeling back layers of an onion. You're not Shrek, but you do have a lot of layers of sin. And God pulls one off and you're like, oh my gosh, that's there too? I didn't even know that. And that's how God works. Self-awareness. As you grow as a Christian, you're going to become more and more aware. The mess in here. That always goes with humility. Number two. Going hand in hand with humility, trust in God / doubt in self. And let me explain that. A very famous Bible verse, Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. So that's an important thing, right? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and then do not lean on understanding. We always look at the first part. Okay, I need to trust in the Lord with all my heart. But it also says not to lean on your understanding. And the idea there is that you're supposed to trust God but doubt yourself. You're supposed to doubt yourself a little bit. And I know this disagree. Your first grade teacher told you, believe in yourself. And I'm not here to fight her, okay? But I do want to say there are some areas of your life where you do need to doubt yourself. Doubt yourself when your desires don't line up with God's desires. You should doubt those desires. You should. Doubt your feelings when they're leading you to do something that God doesn't want you to do. You should doubt them. Why wouldn't you doubt them? And that's what this means. You're saying, I trust you, God. I don't trust me. I trust what you're telling me to do. I don't trust my feelings that are drawing me away from that. I don't trust them. I don't trust my desires. I don't trust what the culture is telling me right now. I trust you. I doubt me. That's a humble person. That's a humble person. I forgot this quote first. I was zooming because as usual, I don't know what the heck I'm doing up here. I got to give you this quote. It's by a guy named Vernon McGee. This is so good. Here's what he says. It's God's universe and God does things his way. You may have a better way, but you don't have a universe. Boom, roasted. So trust in God, doubt yourself. Last one. Always present with humility is gratitude. Always present with humility is gratitude. Grateful people are typically humble because gratitude is acknowledging that something outside of you has given you something good, right? A prideful person doesn't need anything from anybody. I got here, I built this myself. The funny part is, prideful person, that hard work you do, that hard work you did was you were using borrowed lungs and borrowed air to do it, okay? So there should be some acknowledgement that God created you, God gave you that work ethic, he wrote your DNA, he put you in the situation you're in, and that God has something to do with that, and others too. So a humble person always has gratitude attached to that, and I think you could work on that. I think you can increase your gratitude. I think you can practice some mental things as you go in your life, intentionally leaning into, I want to be grateful for the things that God has done in my life. You can. And it's just, I really think it's a little bit of a muscle. I think your gratitude is a muscle and you got to work that thing. You got to make yourself grateful for some things. Give them a list. Wake up with it. We do this with the sociopath serial killer 5-year-old that I have. We do this with him all the time because he will say the sentence almost every day, this is the worst day ever. He says that, which I'm like, man, yesterday was bad too. Every day is worse than the last. So we have this thing with him, you literally just played video games for 2 hours. I took you to McDonald's and today's the worst day ever. Okay. So we fight a lot and we're trying to get him to acknowledge the good things that are in his life because he needs to practice that. And I think we can too. Gratitude, humility, together. Worship team, why don't you guys come up here? I'll end with this. This is my own personal thing I really think that the difference between a prideful person and a humble person is focus. It's the focus of your life. If the focus is on you, it's pride. If the focus is on others and God, it's humility. So one of the things that's really impacted me, one of the things that's really kept me from just going stupid with my pride is God has always got me to focus on the size of the mission that he's given me. And when I realized how, and by the way, this is true for everybody in this room, whatever God is calling you to do, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. God cannot ask you to do something and like have your proper response be, I got that. No problem. God, I'll call you when it's done, right? Never. When he says climb a mountain, you're going to go like this. That one? You're going to feel small compared to the size of the thing he's called you to do. And that's true at every stage. So if you're just starting off in the Christian life, you're like, man, I feel like he's calling me this thing, but I feel inadequate to do it. Good. You're supposed to. That's the beginning of humility. And whatever you do and as you continue to grow and you keep hitting those different stages, it's still going to be that way. He's going to keep calling you to something bigger than you. And for me, that helps keep me small and helps keep the focus on God. You know what I pray over here on the side every single time before I'm coming in? I pray a lot of different things, but you know the most said sentence that I say over and over and over again? I need you, I need you, I need you, I need you. I can't do this thing without him. And I recognize the weight of that. And it does help keep me a little humble. I can't do this without him. You need him too. Pray with me. Jesus, Lord, you know how hard this one is. Nobody came in here today. I hope Pastor talks about humility. Nobody thought that, Lord. I pray that it did the work that you wanted it to do. I pray that we're open to that, Lord. I pray that we lean into that. I pray that for the person who maybe doesn't even know what they don't know, Lord, that you would start to open up eyes, Lord. I pray for the person who needs to increase their gratitude, Lord, that they would just lean into that. I pray that we would decrease and you would increase, Lord. I pray that the focus would be on you and not on us, and that we would truly, truly know and believe. Happy are the humble. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.